My name is Marius Beck and I'm working for Forgotten Empires as a producer. So my first experience with the Age of Empires franchise happened when I was just 8 years old. So I got the Age of Empires 2 game as a gift from my parents, and I played it on the family computer, so that was super fun. And I distinctly remember telling my parents that this is the one game which doesn't get boring after a while, because there were other games. I also had lots of fun playing other games, which eventually weren't as interesting anymore as the first time that I tried them. For Age of Empires 2, I felt like this was the only game where this was different. I could play it again and again and it would always still be fun. Especially because it had an AI, which was actually quite capable, so you could have lots of fun in single-player skirmishes, but it also had random map generation, which is always different. So it always felt like a new experience, again, playing Age of Empires 2. So yeah, I love to do this. I also love to play on LAN with my friends. That was great fun as well. But yes, eventually I felt like, okay, so the AI is really fun. And it is smart, but it's not smart enough. So I thought, let me just take a look and see if I can just change some minor things. And I had a look and I discovered how I was able to change the AI. And the AI script to be specific. But I didn't understand any of the code. I was still just a little kid. I scrapped it at that time, but eventually I returned to it and I finally understood what I was looking at, or at least I was able to slowly understand. And that is when I started working on the AI as a hobby. And yeah, as you can imagine, the scope of the project quickly expanded of what I was doing with the AI until I had a full-fledged AI which was way smarter than what I ever played against before. And this is really my journey into Forgotten Empires. We started a big mod project that turned official, and since then I've been living the dream, playing Age of Empires on my free time while working on the game as well, so it's absolutely amazing.
It all began when my parents bought me a game localized in Spanish, in the hopes that I would learn some Spanish. However, this was Age of Empires 2, and I didn't learn a lot of Spanish. I just got very addicted and invested in medieval history. I also showed this game to all my friends, and we played it every single day. And one of my friends basically told me, like, yes, I have this game as well. So we went over to his place and wanted to play it. Turned out it was Age of Empires 1, which was slightly different, but yeah, it was still lots of fun. One day he got back and had bought Age of Mythology. And he also then introduced me to the concept of what a game developer was. And that was basically the first moment where we both basically thought, like, yeah, we really want to become game developers, and not just game developers, specifically game developers of Age of Empires and Age of Mythology. Now, clearly we were onto something back then, because all the remakes nowadays. But back then, I just was very interested in how these games worked, and started looking through the files that they had and modifying them. I also discovered the online community and started some projects there, helping out some people, and starting my own expansion project for Age of Mythology. Then one day the extended edition popped up, and Forgotten Empires came around, and the community basically pushed me towards them, saying, like, you absolutely need this guy, he knows almost everything. And luckily Forgotten Empires needed someone to work on the AI, and I knew something about the AI, so I could help out there. And that's basically how I got my first job in the industry. And the next project was Age of Empires 1 Definitive Edition, where actually I was allowed to work as a programmer. And ever since I've been working as a programmer at Forgotten Empires, living the childhood dream.
Hi, I'm Alina Goetz and I work as a quality assurance tester at Forgotten Empires. My first time seeing Age of Empires was when I was 6 years old. It was my first game I ever played. I remember enjoying exploring the black map and building navy and sending my villagers out to hunt and making chariots. And I also remember being confused why my chariots could not cross farms. And a bit later after that I played Age of Empires 2. For a long while I forgot about the game, but in 2017 I rediscovered it and I watched Spirit of the Law's YouTube videos, and I found out how many people still play the game today. I promptly bought the HD edition afterwards and watched more YouTube videos like T90's famous Forest Nothing video, and after that I joined Twitch and I followed the professional scene, like the Viper and MBL, and became sort of involved in watching all the tournaments. And also I attended Gamescom 2017 and met many great members of the community there, and that inspired me to be more active, or take a more active role as well. So I became a moderator in about a dozen channels in the Age of Empires 2 community, and I had lots of fun engaging with people in the chat, and that made me also want to start my own channel. So in 2018 I streamed for the first time on Twitch, and I built my first ever gaming PC specifically for Age of Empires 2. And yeah, that experience also inspired me to learn more about the industry itself, and I did some research on the live streaming industry in China for my degree in Chinese studies, and that also inspired me to write my final thesis about the gaming industry in China. So yeah, Age of Empires had a big impact in sort of my pivot from Chinese to games, and I was really hooked on the topic of game development and found my first role in the industry as a quality assurance tester with FE. And now I'm just really happy to work on the franchise. Age of Empires has brought me many happy moments, and it's changed my career path completely, and I'm really happy to be part of this passionate team and bring many more players happy moments with Age of Empires.
I think most people will know me as Interjection, but hi, I'm Will, and like a lot of us, I got into the Age series as a kid. My fondest memories playing back then are of Arcantos, Ajax, and the rest of the Age of Mythology saga. Back then, it was single player for me. My parents didn't have internet yet, but sometimes we stayed with family who did, and I took the game there. And the first time, I just couldn't believe I was online with other people. I would sneak down the stairs, boot up the PC to play some more, and just pray that the old dial-up sound wouldn't wake anyone up, because it was really loud. Then Microsoft announced Age of Empires 4 and the definitive editions, and I had just finished with uni. I had no commitments in life just yet. I was still pretty young, and I thought, wow, when those come out, wouldn't it be fun to immerse myself full-time into making videos and streaming and being part of the community? And if that ends up being just a gap year, then, well, that would have been time well spent. But it turns out a fellow YouTube friend, Zero Empires, or Zach, had a much bigger idea. He asked me and some others to come and help him build a streaming studio. All of us moved in together to keep costs low. We rented a space and we built a stage, a casting booth, and it was nuts, really. We had funding for 1 year, and that is sadly how long it lasted, but during that time I am immensely proud of what we achieved for Age of Empires, particularly Age of Empires 3, where we hosted the New World Championship, which was the second ever LAN tournament in the game's history, where we flew 8 of the best players to our studio, as well as we invited all of the community, and we had this 4-day event where everyone got to meet all of the names that we'd known online for so many years, and just that, I will cherish those memories forever. And shortly after that, I was offered a game design position at Forgotten Empires, and it has been a privilege to contribute to what is now 25 years of Age of Empires. It's fantastic.
I have always loved AoE 2, it was literally my childhood game, and once I became aware of the possibility of modding, I immediately felt attracted to it. I worked on a few short-lived modding projects and soon moved to the AoE 3 modding community, where eventually I joined the mod that's known nowadays as Wars of Liberty. Around that time I heard about a new mod for AoE 2 that was Forgotten Empires back then, which could literally add new civilizations to the game, and that piqued my curiosity as this wasn't really possible back then. Once I found the AOSC Zone thread, I immediately messaged Bert and asked him how he did that, and also requested a Portuguese civilization. Sadly, all civs were already set in stone, and that eventually led me to create my own mod just to add the Portuguese civ initially. As time passed and the mod grew, I added new civs, new features, and eventually had to delve into actual programming. I had to learn ASM and basic reverse engineering to add some features and civ bonuses I want to add into the game, and this eventually led me to develop a few patches for AoE 2 and AoE 3 mods. Eventually, I became a part of Forgotten Empires. Initially, I just worked on localization for a few AoE 2 HD DLCs, and then QA for AoE 2 Definitive Edition, and landed as an engineer for AoE 3 Definitive Edition. I feel really honored to be working on the game I love. I feel like I'm doing officially what I used to do as a modder back then, and it still feels like a dream coming true to me.
Hello, my name is Bert Beeckman. I'm studio head at Forgotten Empires, and for the past 10 years we've been working on the Age of Empires franchise. But my history with Age of Empires started much longer ago. I think when I was around 10 years old, I was visiting my uncle, and he was playing Age of Empires 2 on his computer. He was playing William Wallace campaign, and I saw him playing, and at some point there was a castle that was on fire. He was walking by, and I was like, "Hey, your castle is on fire, you need to do something about it." And he looked at me and he said like, no, that's not how the game works. And I was like, okay, that's weird, and I kind of left it at that. But then I was still fascinated, because it was interesting to see the trebuchets, the castles, the whole atmosphere. And then later at my birthday, I got the actual CD of Age of Empires 2: The Age of Kings. And at that point, the journey began, the passion began. And many years later, at this point 20 years later, I'm still very busy with Age of Empires. During those 20 years, it's been kind of an on and off relationship. Like you play it, you forget about it, you play it, you come back. And then after university, I found the game back and went online, found there was still an active community playing the game, and also a modding community, people who were making scenarios, making graphics, trying to add new things to the game. With that group of people, like-minded people, we created a modification for Age of Empires 2 that contained new civilizations. And it was a great journey, or rather the start of a great journey, because with those people, after all these years, we founded Forgotten Empires, the studio that is now 80 people strong and working on the Age of Empires franchise for 10 years now, and hopefully for many more years to come.